For over a decade now, we've been waiting for the Burnout series to make a true comeback. The original publisher, EA, doesn't seem to be interested, with original developer Criterion Games now working on the Battlefield franchise, and the last major release being Burnout Paradise all the way back in 2008. But what about in the indie space? There exists a small team of developers who worked on those classic Burnout games that we all love, who left Criterion many years ago and formed Three Fields Entertainment. Since leaving Criterion, they've launched Danger Zone 1 and 2, Dangerous Driving, and finally the focus of today's video, Wreckreation. I've been harsh on their games in the past, having covered Dangerous Driving in my Burnout Clones video, link in description, but I went into Wreckreation with an open mind. Wreckreation promises something more than just Dangerous Driving 2. It promises not only the high-speed chaos of the Burnout games, but also the creative freedom of a Trackmania title. And for the first time ever, they have the backing of a major publisher, THQ Nordic, funding their game. So to say that I've been excited for this game is a huge understatement. Over the last week or so, I've been playing Wreckreation's press build, and I can tell you this. It is absolutely a game of two halves. I have some very mixed opinions here, some that you're going to love, and some that are genuinely disappointing. But before I get into the real meat of this review, I want to thank Three Fields Entertainment, THQ Nordic, and Dead Good PR for allowing me to cover this game early. They provided the channel with a key for review, but they did not tell me what to say or screen this video before posting it, so all opinions in this video are my own, so thank you again to them for your support of the channel. And if you enjoy what I do, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more racing game reviews. Alright, let's dive right into the game. Wreckreation is an open-world sandbox arcade racer, taking place on a giant 153 square mile island. The scale of this map isn't immediately apparent, since it isn't revealed to the player from the get-go. There's a nice sense of discovery early on in the game, just cruising around exploring, trying to find different events, collectibles, and points of interest scattered around the map. Wreckreation is a very open world game. What I mean by that is, besides the opening tutorial, you're free to drive anywhere on the map and complete tasks in any order that you see fit. I'm generally a fan of more linear experiences, but I think this fits their messaging surrounding the game of giving freedom to the player, so I dig it. That being said, the single player isn't just a pure sandbox. There is some kind of a progression system. Wreckreation has a licensing system not too different from Burnout Paradise, where depending on how you place in different events scattered around the map, that earns you points towards upgrading that license. With each license upgrade, it unlocks new cars and event types. Events in Wreckreation are pretty straightforward. They include things like head-to-head races on road, off-road, in the sky, races against the clock, and road rage. I found the on-road and off-road races to be pretty standard stuff, but the sky races are a ton of fun. These are the Trackmania Hot Wheels type tracks with big corkscrews and loops. I actually think it works very well with this game's sense of speed. Races are pretty chaotic, and you're encouraged to take risks to build up your boost gauge. Risks like driving on the wrong side of the road, or barely missing traffic, or drifting. The best way to boost your bar, though, is to wreck your opponents. Each time you wreck another opponent, you'll lengthen your bar another segment, and it'll fill it up instantly. The sense of speed in this game is one of its biggest strengths for me. The camera will pull back and lower, everything becomes this big blur on the sides of the screen, and most importantly, the handling is still grippy, and it enables this kind of speed for long stretches of time. I'm a big fan of this, I like it a lot. However, road rage for me is a bit of a disappointment. If you're not familiar with Burnout, in road rage the goal is to crash a certain number of cars in under a time limit. The problem with road rage for me in Wreckreation isn't just one singular issue, but a few smaller ones that all kind of come together into one big issue. They don't really follow any sort of direction, being the AI. They'll tend to drive off onto roads that, for lack of a better phrase, don't really promote keeping up the fast pace of the game. They'll oftentimes respawn really far away from the player too, and then I'll have to waste time catching up to them instead of wrecking them. Which, you know, this game mode has a limited time, so you can't afford to waste a whole lot of it. Also, most of the barriers in Wreckreation are destructible, so good luck smashing your opponents into things. I found that more often than not, it was just easier to give my opponents a huge shove from behind and watch them lose control and smash into a tree or fly off a bridge or something. Road rage definitely needs some work for sure. The wrecks in Wreckreation are okay, I guess. I mean, they are much improved from dangerous driving, don't get me wrong, and the damage to the cars is more detailed. You can really mess these cars up. It's not to the level of a game like Wreckfest or BeamNG where you can just like completely flatten cars and knock all the wheels off and everything, but I think it's pretty good considering where we were in the last game. However, I still found the physics on crashes to be a bit jank at times, definitely less than dangerous driving though. For example, if a car crashes into a median head-on, I would kind of expect that car to smash into it and be just completely immobilized, just smashed, destroyed, maybe it's on fire, smoking, whatever. Instead, I saw on multiple occasions, I mean this was something that happened all the time, the car would slam into the median and then it would just fly straight backwards, like on its wheels. It wouldn't go airborne, nothing. It just looked like it sprang off of a trampoline and not a metal barrier. The crash physics, for the most part, are pretty good. They're decent. It's just those few times where you see something that doesn't quite look right, it just breaks my immersion entirely. Maybe that's a personal issue, but that's me, and I can only speak for me. While we're on the subject of physics, let's talk about the driving physics and the cars. All of the cars in Wreckreation are unlicensed, but some of them are very clearly inspired by real cars. There are 48 cars in total, which is quite a lot, really, but 24 of them are more or less upgraded versions of the existing cars. So I like to think of the roster as having 24 cars, and then you have those 24 upgraded variants, which, you know, 24 is still a lot in my book. There's a nice variety here too, with muscle cars, sedans, coupes, truck, and some hypercars. These can be modified too in real time. You can change the paint color, paint finish, wheel color, license plate image and text, the horn, and the engine sound. There isn't any kind of performance modifications though. That's reserved for those upgraded variants I mentioned earlier. And you can't modify specific things on those variants, it's just a singular upgrade. Each of those 24 cars are divided into one of 4 car classes. Those classes are race cars, off-road cars, hypercars, and bruisers. Race cars start with the first segment of their boost bar filled. Bruisers are better for the events where you need takedowns like road rage. Hypercars, as far as I can tell, are just faster and grippier race cars. And off-road cars are, well, best at off-roading. The cars really do feel different, at least across different classes. I found it difficult to tell the difference between 2 hypercars beyond just speed differences. The handling seemed pretty identical, pretty similar. But, you know, for example, there was a serious difference in the grip level between a race car on, say, a snow surface versus an off-roader on that same surface. The physics in general are much better than dangerous driving. I found the cars to be too twitchy in that game versus this one where the cars are pretty planted on the ground, especially while boosting like I mentioned earlier. I could pretty much keep my foot in the gas and turn left or right full tilt and not lose grip and spin out, unless I hit something of course. The audio on the cars is also pretty good and a big step up from dangerous driving. Here, take a listen to a few of the cars, and I've also included some dangerous driving footage for comparison. I mean, it's like night and day difference. You're able to swap between cars at any point in the single player at the parking lots and gas stations scattered all across the map, which also serve as fast travel points. This map is huge, so you're gonna want to fast travel. Parking lots are purely there to switch cars, whereas gas stations fill your boost and repair your car. Other than this, there are collectibles scattered around the map for you to collect. Smashable billboards and gates return from Burnout Paradise, and there are 3 different types of billboards. Some require you to just crash through them, some require you to perform a specific kind of stunt through them, and others track your stunt score as you crash through it versus your friends. So it's kind of like a freestyle billboard in a way. There are hundreds of these scattered across the map, and personally I found the freestyle ones to be the most fun. Stunts can be as simple or as complex as you want them to be, and for me, I love competing against my friends for high scores in pretty much any game. Outside of those billboards, there are also different challenges to compete with your friends called Wreckords. Things like driving on the wrong side of the road for the longest time, or hitting the longest drift, that sort of thing. When one of your friends beats one of your records, it'll pop up on your screen that they've defeated you, and it'll allow you to fast travel to run it back. The last collectible is brand new to Wreckreation, and these are the LiveMix pieces. I know that I've brought up Burnout Paradise a lot in this video already, but LiveMix is what sets these two games apart. LiveMix is more Trackmania than it is Burnout, allowing you to build tracks and events from scratch. You can also remix existing events, say you want to add extra laps, or change the traffic density, or change the weather, or the time of day of an event. You can do that. It's all pretty seamless too. The load screens are pretty fast at getting you from the editing screen back to your car to test it out, which is big for me. I love that. There are over 400 different placeable objects, and objects can be anything from the previously mentioned track pieces to ramps, corkscrews, and physics objects like hay bales and cones. It's sick. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. There are also 1,200 different variations of objects. That's not to say that every object you place has a variant, but variations can be something as simple as different visual designs on a placeable flag, or maybe like a placeable part of the track has a median in it now. It is honestly this game's killer feature, and one that I wish there was more utility for, at least for the offline players anyway. What I mean by this is that LiveMix doesn't really play into the single player progression or the content loop whatsoever. It's kind of there as just a fun little extra. Sure, there are some collectibles I couldn't get to unless I placed a ramp, for example, but these were few and far between. Progression is still directly tied to earning those license points by completing the preset events that are already on the map. I couldn't help but feel like Wreckreation's single player experience was something like an expectation they had, something they had to check off of a list rather than a core part of the game. The single player experience here is essentially a spiritual successor to Burnout Paradise. If that sounds good to you, more power to you, but for me, that isn't what Wreckreation was promised as being. I really want to see these guys succeed, I really do, and I know that we all love the Burnout series, it's obvious, and we also want something fresh and new in that style, but at the same time, Wreckreation was marketed as something more than just a Burnout successor. I'd love to see some LiveMix events where you have to build a track that gets you X amount of stunt points in X amount of time, or a track that you have to hit a certain speed on, or a ramp that requires you to get a certain amount of hang time in the air. Something that really pushes that player freedom that they've been marketing. Something that allows you to be as creative as you want to be. Or if they want to throw it back to Burnout and keep those modes, imagine if this game not only had a crash mode, but you were then able to customize it and build your own tracks off of it. Imagine being able to strategically place AI cars and ramps and stuff, different physics objects to destroy to rack up high scores, being able to build out your own levels that you can then share with your friends, or you can take turns online crashing into. I don't know, I'm just spitballing, but I just want to see this game succeed, and I think as it stands, the single player is a bit of a dull and repetitive experience. I think the map is too big, the lack of any urban areas on it is a huge miss, the progression is slow, and I just don't think this was a priority for them. So let's shift over to the multiplayer and see if that's any better. How is that side of the game? To find out, I teamed up with fellow YouTuber gamer Alex, and honestly, the short answer is it's pretty damn good. Many of the same events and activities are available from the single player, like the Wreckords, the gates, the billboards, but what I want to really focus on are the Wreckreation challenges and how LiveMix works with other people. The host of the lobby, who they call the game DJ, can create events from scratch, remix existing ones, import ones they've created offline, and they can also launch impromptu events. These are things like racing to a certain point on the map, or breaking a certain number of objects, performing a certain stunt or a certain number of stunts. But it's completely up to you how many objects are placed, or what stunt gets performed, or how long they need to do an event for. I can see this being a ton of fun with Wreckreation's 8-player limit, which we were unfortunately not able to test before release. You're also not able to backfill empty player slots with bots either, so a bit of a bummer there. That being said, Road Rage is also missing from multiplayer, and I think that's something the developers absolutely need to add in a post-launch patch. Just imagine how chaotic it would be if you and 7 other people are competing to chase the takedown high score against AI, or maybe there can be 2 teams of 4 trying this, or, there's a lot of possibilities here, but all of them sound like a ton of fun, granted they, fix Road Rage. The thing we spent the most time doing in the multiplayer, though, was messing around with LiveMix. You have access to all of the same parts and pieces as single player, nothing changes there. But what's so cool about this is that it's all updated in real time with other players. Here's some footage of me messing around in the editor, placing objects on the map, and now let me show you guys Alex's POV where he can see me placing those objects, and then he can test those out in real time. Like, it's nuts, and results in some genuinely hilarious moments. On top of this, you can grant other people DJ access too, so then they can place objects on the track too, and you guys can cooperatively build out tracks and speed up your creative process. The developers have also decided not to restrict your object placements at all, so you can truly create some cursed and broken tracks if you so choose to. When we were bored of creating tracks, we actually clipped part of the track into the road, turned up the traffic density, and just watched the AI pile into the side of the track, crashing into each other. It's janky as hell, but man, it's a ton of fun. It's giving you, the player, your chance to create your own fun. It reminds me a lot of the days of sitting on GTA 4's multiplayer back in the day, not really doing much other than launching my car off the ramps at the airport or messing around with the swing set glitch. We weren't making progress towards an unlock, we weren't leveling up a battle pass, we weren't improving our win-loss record, we were just having stupid fun together, and that is where Wreckreation shines the brightest. This is by far the best part of the game, and something I can see myself coming back to for a long time. Even if it's a little janky, a little clunky, that's part of the charm and part of the fun. In conclusion, Wreckreation is a tale of two halves. On one hand, they've crafted a truly fun, open-world, multiplayer sandbox racer. Just hanging out together in a lobby, trying to break the physics together, participating in a bunch of dumb challenges, or building racetracks together is a blast. It's something you don't realize you've been missing in modern games until it's right there in front of your face. But there's something for competitive players too. Chasing the top spot on the record leaderboards, or competing in races with friends or other people in your lobby. Mechanically with this game, they've nailed the sense of speed. The damage model is pretty freaking good. Being able to change the world's weather or time of day on the fly is super cool. But on the other hand, we have a game that's being dragged down by a bunch of issues. Some patchable and some not. I had some stuttering issues and the game crashed on me a few times during my playthrough. But I am confident that these issues will be fixed soon. That's why I didn't really focus on them in my video too much. What they can't fix, though, is the single-player offline design. It is severely lacking, it's boring, it's repetitive, and it's held back by games that came before it. It needs a complete overhaul, a complete rethink. Is Wreckreation a true successor to Burnout and Dangerous Driving, or is it something truly fresh and unique? I think it has the DNA for a great game, and I'm hopeful that 3 Fields can fix the instability and fully commit to LiveMix being the center of the entire experience in future DLCs, if they choose to go that route. If that happens, Wreckreation will be a good game, maybe even a great one. But at its current price of $39.99, I think it's a tough sell. It is lacking in too many areas to ignore, no matter how fun that online might be. Enough about me though, it's time to turn it over to you guys. What do you think of Wreckreation? Will you be picking this one up or skipping it? Let me know in the comments below. I try to read every comment posted. Thank you all so much for watching. Big shout out to my highest tier patrons CD-ROM Fossil and Arcade Racing Central. as well as all of my patrons over on Patreon. You guys are awesome. My name is Mercy, and as always, have a good one.